Pseudocode is like an intermediate between a narrative and actual programming language. Now, pseudocode can contain variables, constants, operators, and different terminology that we use in a programming language. Alright? Now, there are few things here you need to know before you can start writing pseudocode. And I wrote them down here beforehand. Now I'm going to go through them quickly. Now the operators, these are symbols used for calculations or to make comparisons. Now we have three different types of operators. Now we have arithmetic, relational, and logical. Now for arithmetic, you have the plus for addition, minus for subtraction, the asterisk is for multiplication, and the slash, the forward slash, is for division. Now for relational, we have greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and not equal to. And for logical, we have and, or, and not. Alright? Now we normally use these as we use pseudocode. We might see relational operators in if statements. We may see them in for loops. There are different places in which we could use them, and we're going to practice some scenarios later on. Now for terms and keywords, for the input step, now remember when I write in algorithms, you normally draw an IPO chart. This stands for input, processing, and output, IPO. Now for input, when we're inputting data, the keywords that we use are input, read, and get. You could use any of the three. And for output, you could say output, write, or display. Alright? I usually like to use read and write. However, you can use any of the three that you are comfortable with. And for assignment, we say set and store. Now assignment is basically we're replacing a value inside of a variable. So example, say we just finish a calculation, we have to store that value. So we put that value inside of a variable using an assignment statement. Alright? Now I'm going to go through an example quickly. Okay, so for the first example, we're going to write a pseudocode algorithm that will find the average of three numbers. So we're going to find the average of three numbers. Alright? Step 1. First thing we always do is to start. Step 2. Now we're going to try and get the three numbers from the user. Now we're going to display a message on the screen so that the user can know it's time to enter three numbers. So we use an output statement. Now, as I said before, you normally use write. Now you can also say output, or you can say display. Then I say enter three numbers. Now for a write statement, you must place whatever you want to output to the screen in inverted commas. They must be placed in inverted commas. Okay. Then for the next step, now after I've finished asking for three numbers, so it's going to come up on the screen and say enter three numbers. The user will now enter the numbers that I asked for, three numbers. Now it's time to accept them. So I asked for three numbers. Now the user is going to give them to me. I have to accept them and I have to place them in appropriate variables. Alright? Now I'm going to use read. Then I'm going to create variables n1, n2, and n3. So these are three variables that will hold three different numbers entered by the user. Next, we're going to say I'm going to create another variable that will store the sum. So I'm going to say set sum n1, plus n2 plus n3. Okay, now what this assignment is saying, add the values found in these three variables. So there's a value in n1, 1 in n2, and 1 in n3. So this step is saying add all three values, and the result that I get from this calculation, I'm going to place it in a variable called sum. Alright, so on this side, this statement is evaluated from right to left. So it performs the right side first. So first it is going to add the three values found inside of these variable names. After it has finished adding them, then whatever the result is, it is placed inside a variable called sum. Okay, that's my assignment, and for assignment we use set or store. Then step 5, this is set AVG, short for average, as sum divided by 3. Okay, now after this line is finished executing, after this line has finished executed, you would have a result stored in sum. Now what this line is saying here now in step 5, it is saying to take the value obtained from step 4, divide it by 3, then the result I get from this side, I take the answer and I put it in a new variable called AVG, which is short for average. Alright, so whatever the answer I got, well, the computer calculated it, so whatever the result was that was placed in sum, the next step is to divide it by 3. Remember, this is the operator used for division. So after this side has finished evaluating, the result is placed in the variable called AVG. And for the next step, we simply write AVG, and then the last step, of course, we have to stop. Now for these two steps, it can also be done like this. We could also say AVG plus n3 divided by 3. That's another way in which we could do it. So we could erase step 4 and 5 and place this one line to perform the same thing. Now that's another way that's a shorter way, but it's basically saying the same thing. Now the brackets would tell the computer what operation to do first. Remember, bed mass, it applies here. So it would do whatever is in the bracket first, then it would perform the division. So it would add the 3 values and then divide that result by 3, and then the overall result would be placed in average. That's another way we could do it, because this side would actually be the sum as here. So it's the same thing, we just wrote it differently.